is informative and contains my opinion and understanding of the subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the stream. We did it a little bit different today, so I'm hosting the stream, and we are going to still have our wonderful Daniel. Let's add him to the stage. Hi, Daniel.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Dr. Vona's channel.
It's so weird, right? I'm so used to you doing it on your side. So this is cool. I got this. We got this. Okay, so today, you guys, we thought that it was important. So last time we saw each other, we said, what are you doing next? And I said, I'm doing stuff on Daniel Martel, and I still am going to do that tonight. I don't, I keep my word. But then when we hung up, we both realized that today is the anniversary of Idaho 4, and we could not, okay, that's a double negative. We had to go live for that, even just for, to give respect to the 4 victims, Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan. So I just wanted to make sure that we touched on this today. Before we start, we said we're going to save it for the show. So the other day you started asking me about like an analogy of sorts, and we never got to like anything about it. So do you want to explain it here? Because we almost did backstage, and then we said we'll save it for here.
Sure. So in the Bryan Kohberger case, a lot of people will remember this. I used to tell folks, like, hey, I don't need a weatherman. I don't need hold on. How did it go? If I went outside and I saw dark clouds leaving and I saw water on the ground, I don't need to be, I wouldn't have needed to have seen it rain to known that it rained that day. You know what I mean? If I go to the weather station and it tells me it rained, that's even more. And the reason why I used to say that is because there were certain things that I would talk about Bryan Kohberger's case and certain things about the evidence. And I'm like, all right, well, because the actions of law enforcement, because of the evidence and the paperwork that they dropped and all these things, we can deduce that this most likely occurred, right? And then, I get people say, oh, well, nobody saw him there. There wasn't a license plate read. How do we know it's his vehicle? And I was like, just because we didn't see him inside of the car doesn't mean that we can't put him in the car with his phone while he had it on for a short period of time, with the cameras that are around, and then finally also, obviously his own statement. So we didn't need to see a video of Bryan Kohberger committing the crime to determine whether or not he committed the crime. And so I used to use this analogy of I could walk outside, see water on the ground and dark clouds leaving, then I can tell that it rained. I don't need to be a weatherman to determine that.
Oh, I get it.
Right. And so
yes.
With the Daniel Martel and with Lily and Jack Sullivan disappearance, right now there's a lot of suspicion against Daniel Martel. And so I asked you, have you ever seen dark clouds and it not rain?
I have.
All right, so have I. I'm in Texas. It happens quite often, to be honest with you. We think we're going to get some rain and then it just goes away. My thing when it comes to Daniel Martel and stuff like that is that it reminds me of this analogy about dark clouds and it not raining. So if you walked outside, what would you think about the person that walked outside, saw dark clouds leaving, but it was bone dry on the ground? They checked the weather station and the weather station says no drop of water actually touched the ground. And then that person still wants to argue saying, well, you know what? I saw some dark clouds, so it must have rained, even though all the evidence says otherwise.
That's assuming that all the evidence. I get what you're saying. Daniel, I'm telling you, someday you're going to be like, Jamie, you are just so smart.
Guess what I found, or what we found. And this is actually going out to, it's not good. It could be bad. So leading from where the boot print is, or if you have the backpack in that case, then it kind of leads up to the boot print. I've had some people looking in the area and stuff. We found some clothes that are in a ditch, not too, quite a bit of ways away, about 4 or 5 miles away, but it is in a direction, in a path that connects to the footprints.
Gotcha.
And so we're actually, I'm hoping to get somebody to go out there tomorrow and check out the clothing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it was actually captured on Google Earth. So Google Earth has been working in that area of Nova Scotia here recently, and they've been taking photos and stuff, the van that's driving around.
Wow.
And because about 2-3 months ago, when we first started looking at it, majority of that area was not visible. And now a lot of it is. And so a lot of these photos are from August of this year. And the little boy and the little girl went missing in May of this year. And so this is a very recent picture of an area that is outside of the search, but in a, like, if you continue to walk in the direction that the boot prints were going, and then the very first street that you come across and you make a right, and it's like a back roads, road, but it's still a very first road. If you go up to the very next clearing and make a left, and then the very next right to the very next intersecting street, it's like right there. And so it's a few miles away, but when I got sent the pictures of it, my first thing was like, all right, well, let's go see if I can debunk this. Let me see if this isn't an area that is impossible to get to from the boot prints. And it's not. It's like in a direct path. And so hopefully tomorrow we'll get somebody to go check it out and see.
Oh, well, you'll have to keep me updated. And anybody in here that's interested in this case, at 10 o'clock, I will be going live to talk about this. So please join us for that. And then we have Mrs. L95 says, DM talks online too much, but he's innocent in my opinion. All these characters coming out of the woodworks, it's a circus.
It is. It really is.
So should we talk about the Idaho 4?
Yeah, let's talk about it. How do you want to talk about the case?
So I think that we have to make sure, obviously, that we I want to make sure that we honor the victims today and not so much BK, right? Because it's about them. So what I did was I found a few things. That, of course, my thing goes out a little bit. Sorry about that. I found a few things to pull up here. So let's see what we got here. Hold on one sec. Why is it acting up? Oh, there we go. But why are we still? Oh, here we go. All right, here we go. So this right here, Amy.
You're breaking up pretty good.
Everything.
I think you're breaking up pretty good.
Oh no!
All right, I hear you a little bit.
Go figure. It's me.
Yeah, you're breaking up really good.
I know. All right. Okay, I think I might have fixed it.
It might be because you're
Hopefully
sharing
I just
the
fixed
screen.
it. Fingers crossed. Am I still breaking up, Daniel? If so, will you talk for 2 minutes while I figure it out?
Yeah, I can definitely talk for 2 minutes. That's my gift. So yeah, 3 years ago, obviously 3 years ago today was a very horrific day for 4 families and students and citizens throughout the Moscow, Idaho area, when the lives tragically were taken from Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle in the middle of the night, in a story or a situation that turned into an overnight viral sensation, and a lot of twists, a lot of turns, a lot of things that have come out here recently. Like, for instance, I here recently found out that even after he's being, convicted, he's admitted guilt, he is past his plea deals, he is still getting money financially from supporters of his. I think he's racked up over almost $30,000 at this point. And it is insane the amount of support that a person who violently went and took the lives of 4 people is still getting to this day. And this case, more than any other case, has opened my eyes. I mean, this one in the Kieran Reed case, to be honest with you guys, opened my eyes to just how some folks can just, almost make a real life situation into a movie and make it okay to, side with somebody who's an evil person like Bryan Kohberger is. Are you back? I see movement, but I don't know if she's back, guys. You might be muted, Dr. Vona. No, she's frozen. And so y'all guys can still hear me, right? Just making sure. But yeah, it's insane the amount of money that he has gotten, when it. All right, 1 second. She's moving really, really slow, but I see her saying 1 second now. For this case, going back 3 years ago, this is when I started in YouTube. Me and the guys, Hyman, Big Blue, we had started talking about YouTube probably around, start talking on YouTube about June 2023, leading. You there?
I'm here now. I'm so sorry, you guys. I had to reboot my whole system. I apologize.
No,
thank
no
God
problem.
you were on here and saved the day.
It's okay.
Oh,
it's okay.
Daniel, thank God. Oh my God. What a mess. So what were you saying? I'm sorry why I pulled this up again.
Yeah, what I was saying was that
I didn't know if I interrupted you. I apologize.
No problem. Is that it's been 3 years since this murder. It was murders that kind of opened my eyes a little bit to certain side of folks. I mean, this guy's recuperated over almost $30,000 in donations and things like that, and he still has his support and his followers and content creators who support him that think he's innocent.
Yeah,
that he probably doesn't support them because they think he's incapable of committing the crime that he did, and it's just wild to me.
No.
And so what is this? This says here, families of the University of Idaho murder victims Madison Mogen and Kaylee Goncalves place ashes.
Totally. I feel like when I have this one thing up.
Yeah, we're probably going to just have to talk about what you want to show there.
Wait,
Dr.
I was going to say, I feel like whenever I bring up the background, that's when it's getting messed up. So I don't know if that's what it is. Whenever I don't touch the background, we're fine. As soon as I go to bring it up. So should I just read what it says?
Yeah, that'll work.
Because I feel like, yeah, that way I don't ruin the whole live. I was like, oh my God, thank God Daniel's saving my life right now. So what I was going to show you guys, it says families of University of Idaho murder victims Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves place ashes in memorial urns in Coeur d'Alene. So there was like a nice tribute today showing Kaylee's mom touching the ashes. And it says, according to the social media post shared by the Gonzales family, both families met at the cremation center to complete the process. The family says the urns will be kept in both homes, symbolizing the close bond between the two friends and what they shared growing up. I thought that was so beautiful that they were able to come up with a plan where they shared the ashes at both the houses so that both of the girls stay together. What do you think about that?
I like it. I like the idea, to Maddie's mom. Kaylee and Maddie were sisters, and they were closely together, and she probably felt like a mom to Kaylee, and to Kaylee's family, Maddie definitely felt part of the family as well. I can say that definitely aspect because I've talked to the Gonzales family. I've never talked to Maddie Mogen's mom, and so I can't. You know what I mean? But I'm fairly positive, given the close relationship that I hear from them, that's how they both felt. And,
I agree.
So both of them felt like they lost two daughters, that night. And so for them to both have both daughters with them in part is amazing. It's beautiful for them to be together. They grew up together. Agree. They passed away together, and now they get to stay together. And so
totally, 100%.
So
even the siblings, right? Like the siblings of Kaylee, like now they get to have, because they lost two sisters too.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was beautiful. The next thing that I had that I pulled up for today's live was a tribute that was done today. So it says, at first they gave like an overview of the case, which all of us here, I'm sure you're here because you've been following the case, and thank you everybody for joining us. But the part that was added, it says that the 4 students that shook the state at its core. And then it talks about how they demolished the house and that they erected a memorial garden and dedicated last year to 4 students near the campus botanical garden. And then it says, on a visit to the permanent place of remembrance, it's possible to cross paths with resting moose and curious fox near the native plants. But it has this beautiful area. Maybe I can try to pull up the picture just to show people real quick. But it says, our anniversary has worked for 3 years to rebuild, never forgetting Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee, but instead growing through their legacy. Green said in a statement to the Statesman, our student body, employees, alumni, and community are stronger than ever before. And this 3rd anniversary, we will reflect and remember. So it then talks about how members of the campus Greek life community plan to gather at the garden Thursday evening to pay their respects on the 3-year mark. So they're probably doing it as we speak. In July, it just talks about how Kohberger accepted, his charges. But let me see if I could just show it real quick, even if I don't stay on it, just so people could see it. It's really pretty. And I thought that was nice that they did it on the 3rd day. And I saved the last one, or like the last thing I have to show you guys. So this is it right here. Oh, there you go. This one didn't mess up the stream. So this is the garden that they have. And they're right now, as we speak, having a vigil type thing tonight. And they have the different Greek life coming to pay their respects as well. So what do you think about this? This must be hard.
Oh, I couldn't imagine how hard today could be for all the families involved and every anniversary. I think this one's probably a little bit easier than the last 2, just because there's justice in this one. The last couple of them, there was a lot of stress, anxiety, not knowing what's going to go on. You know what I mean? So this is probably the first anniversary where they can start to heal without that weight over them. I did
Absolutely.
I did speak to Steve and to Christy just briefly today, just saying,
You did. I was going to ask if you spoke with them.
Just very brief. I haven't spoken to them in a minute, and I wanted to reach out, just telling them my thoughts and prayers, and they spoke a little bit about what they've done today and this weekend, and it was, they seem to be doing really good. And so,
anything you can share with us, or
they took the day off. And they said they were going to just take the day off and relax and talk about the girls. And, they just came back from a trip not too long ago. And so, they're doing good.
That's good to know.
This day's always going to be hard. You know what I'm saying? Like I have a daughter that I lost when, through birth. She didn't survive birth.
Aww.
And she would have been, she would have been
I'm sorry.
19 going on 20 now. And every anniversary is hard. Sometimes, some anniversaries are not as hard, and some all of a sudden out of the blue are more difficult than the ones before. And so it comes and goes, and
it's a beautiful thing to see a dad that lost a child and during that process feel that weight as well. A lot of times the dad, when you lose a child during birth and things like that, they often will try to disconnect as a way to cope. So the fact that you're able to, talk about it and stuff just shows the strength that you have. So good for you for that.
Yeah. Well, it's taken almost 2 decades. There was some times that was tough, especially early on. There was a Kenny Chesney song that had came out that I had never heard. I don't know if it was new at that time or whatnot. And I think it was If You Didn't Die Today or something of that nature. And that one like rocked me to my core, because I heard it for the first time. Like I could have swore it was like a week or 2, but it felt like a week or 2 after she had passed. It could have been months, but all that time kind of gels together and things like that. And so that song was that one like for the longest time, every time that I would start hearing the beginning of that song, just change the radio station. I couldn't handle it. And so but over time it gets easier. I my daughter was a stillborn. She didn't survive birth. And so, with Steve and his family, it's completely different scenarios.
Those are still the loss of a child and not in a club that anybody ever wants to join.
Exactly. 100%. You're 100% correct on that.
You know what I mean? Like unfortunately, nobody wants to be a part of that club. So I didn't even realize that you were. So I'm really sorry for that loss.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Oh.
Yeah, it's September. I'll keep the date to myself, but that's why. So it's crazy because my other two daughters, my older daughters, I should have 4. I mean, crazy. I never got my boy. Yeah. Outside of Rogan, my little one, all of them were in September, and so.
Oh wow.
Yeah, go figure. And so September's pretty up, and it's good in the beginning because it's my other two. Their birthdays are earlier in the month, and then my oldest, her birthday / past day, it's at the end. And so yeah, it is what it is. But yeah. I mean, I think I've brought it up a handful of times. I don't think I've talked too much about it.
I don't think I remember this one, and I listened to your stuff too. So, and there's a ton of people like saying how much they love you and they're sorry for your loss. And Dan has that girl daddy energy, much like my husband. That's what Chloe said. And then Oh Look a Squirrel said, that's what I always say about our club. The entrance fee is way too damn high and no one wants to be in it. Oh, look a squirrel. I don't think I knew that either. There's so many people. I don't think I realized how many subs have lost a child. Like an abundant percentage. Like if we look at the percentage of subs, I can't believe how many people have lost a child. It is so heartbreaking. I wonder if some people feel the connection to true crime because of that, depending on how they lost that loved one. Like, for example, Timmy D's family, like stuff like that. So Barbara. And there's just so many people like that I talk to on here that are part of this club that no one wants to be a part of.
Yeah, it's something you don't want to go through, like I remember everything from that day 20 years later, like everything.
I bet you do. And, I bet you do.
Yeah, it's
thank you for sharing it.
Oh, of course. Steve and Christy, they've gone out there and they've been strong, and I know how much strength it takes to talk about a child that you just recently lost, and then to imagine to have part of the world, a huge amount of people blaming you for talking, for speaking up for your daughter, for just because maybe perhaps you got some things inaccurate on the worst day of your life. You know what I mean? And
not just that, imagine just being in the spotlight, period. So like they have that on top of everything else, but just the fact that there's like, so many people in the world that know their story, that itself has to be really hard for all of the families, right? So Xana's mom, Ethan, Maddie, like all of the parents, that's got to be so hard that this is so prevalent in the lives of so many people. This case touched so many people. And one of the things when I was preparing for this, I like wanted to think like, what is it? You know what I mean? And I'm like, what is it that got to people? And what I thought about, like when I was reflecting on this, was that I think that it still like grips the public because it created this like triangle: the victims, the community, the offender. And we saw a lot of identity in this case, whether it was a lack of identity from Kohberger to the strong identities of the victims, and how he pretty much did part of what he did, not obviously the whole thing, but a big part of it, in my opinion, was that he didn't have that identity, and that he did this. And in a way now he is tied to their identities forever, unfortunately. So I was thinking about it, and I'm like, a lot of people I know identified, with one or all of the victims here. And I know even for me, the reason, I don't know what got you so attached to the case, but for me, I think it's because as a psychology professor, and then a mother of a daughter who was going to college. I think it just like hit home, and it felt like it could have happened on any campus in the United States. So I just felt like that was what it was for me. What was it for you? Like, what was it, just like a fluke that you guys started talking about it, or was there something specific that you identified with?
Well, I mean, the sheer gravity and the horrificness of the crime, all of a sudden, me and the guys, we weren't into true crime, like, whatsoever. I was an ex-police officer. My buddy Big Blue, he was in the medical field in Jaime. He was probably the one that was the most into true crime. He followed like a podcast called like Serial Chillers instead of Killers. And it was like, I guess people would chill and talk about all these, serial killer crimes and things of that nature. And so we started talking about Richard Allen when he got arrested, because I was kind of interested in that case. Not to the point where I knew much about it. I thought that Keegan Kline was arrested for it and been charged and stuff. I hadn't been following it. Like, YouTube was never one of the, like, I only watched YouTube for football stuff. Like, if you went through my YouTube before I started going through YouTube, all you would see was the Steelers highlights, Steelers podcast, and things of that nature. Maybe some car stuff. True crime really wasn't there. I had no idea who anybody was or any of those things. And when we started talking about Richard Allen, people started saying, maybe you guys should talk a little bit more about true crime. And then this case happens like immediately after that. I think Richard Allen got arrested like in the beginning of November, late October. I think it was October 28th. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty positive it was around that time. And then this murder happened November 13th, and we're like, wow, 4 people. We thought immediately it was going to get solved. We felt that you have a lot of cameras in the area, a knife, seems very personable. There was the mayor that had came out and said something to the effect that it was a crime of passion. You had an ex-boyfriend. That information was starting to come out that there was an ex-boyfriend and phone calls. And so we started thinking that, all right, maybe perhaps there's something there. And as we started to talk more about the case, I started telling folks, I'm like, look, law enforcement has a lot more information than me, you, and anybody else covering this case on YouTube. And they know more than what we know. They have more information and access to it. If this was something that was close, if this was, the ex-boyfriend, then this wouldn't be very difficult to solve with the evidence that should be available. We found out that he lived fairly close. And I was like, well, if he lives fairly close, there's got to be video. And sure enough, there is. I mean, we ended up catching Bryan Kohberger driving around several times that night. And so I started to say that I think there's something more nefarious here. And that's where we started really, digging deep into it. I mean, not more nefarious. I mean, obviously it's quadruple homicide. What I meant was, this is something more of a serial type offender than it would have been like a crime of passion type of situation. And that's what I believe it was probably going to end up starting out to be. I think Bryan Kohberger was on his way. Had he not gotten caught, I think had he not left the knife sheath, I think he would have done it again, even within the time frame that he got caught.
1,000%. That's exactly what drew me into. I knew that this wasn't like an ex-boyfriend that was mad, or I felt like I saw, like, you could see the horrific pre-planning, if you will, of this crime, and pre-planning even in the sense of fantasy. So, his fantasy of what he thought would happen, whether it worked out the way that he thought or not. But I could tell that this wasn't just like a we broke up type killing. I did think it was interesting that in one of the very first press conferences, if we remember, how they said that, like you were saying, but they said something about it was a crime of passion. And they said that they didn't expect anything to happen again. So they felt like it was isolated. That's the word, an isolated incident.
Targeted.
I feel like, or targeted. That's it. So targeted. That's right. So don't you feel like that kind of did a disservice to Kaylee's ex-boyfriend and even Maddie's boyfriend or things like that? Because I felt like by saying it's targeted, it means that someone in, one of their close circle of friends or someone in one of their lives might have done something like this. So you guys don't have to worry. We think that this was targeted. What do you think about that? Like, do you think that it gave like a false sense of what they were looking at? Or do you think they really were looking into things like that at the time?
Well, I think that they probably had a strong indication that it had to be targeted given the veracity of the crime. And it was. Now, they weren't wrong. I strongly suspect that the house was the main target. And they said that very early, that it could have been the house. Now, I think that the answer to that question is a little bit twofold. So the first part is, they have a crime. Well, first and foremost, let me back up. First, this is a reason why you're not supposed to say anything before you have all the information. Because even if you have a situation where you think it's leaning in one direction, this happens in the true crime community quite often, actually. There might be something that kind of makes something look a certain way, and then people just go all head in first down that direction without taking a step back, saying, all right, how does that correlate with the information and the evidence that we have available as well? Is there water to the dark clouds? Is there rain left behind, or is it just dark clouds? Is it just red flags that are in the area? And so that's the first thing. This is why you don't say anything, even if you're suspicious about something. This is one of the reasons why law enforcement don't say anything. Number two, I think the reason they did that had more to do with the students, the school, panic, things of that nature. And I think that if they could do it over again, I think they would do it differently.
Okay, what do you think they would have done?
I think that they would have, I don't know, not necessarily say that they wouldn't have said it wasn't a targeted event, but I think they would have made it more clear that people need to lock their doors, be safe, that there is somebody who is violent on the loose, because it very much came off in the beginning that they were trying to tell people that they were safe and not to worry about anything. And this was, as you mentioned, specifically targeted that they wouldn't want to target anybody else outside of this place. But the problem is Bryan Kohberger could have had other targets on his list. And I think he did. I mean, when you look at the Dateline information that had came out about the photos of different classmates and different friends and things of that nature, the fact that he was buying another knife, now, when did he stop searching for the knife? He stopped searching for a knife when they put out the bolo for the white Elantra. That's when he freaks out, and that's when he goes across country or calls dad to have dad fly across country and then them drive together. All that stuff happens after the bolo of the white Elantra. He stops looking for the knife. So if his sole intention was to replace the knife because he was afraid that they were going to come knocking on his door, well, that's the moment when he starts to do that. That's not the moment when he stops doing that. So that tells me that all of that stuff beforehand was to replace the knife to commit the crime again. And so, I think that there's a good possibility that he had other targets and he was focusing on other people. And I don't know if he would have done anything in Pennsylvania. It seems like he was two different people, a different person when he was with his parents, like in DeSales University. And then when he was in Washington.
So as far as two different people, I would say that it might have appeared that he was two different people. I think his parents provided boundaries for him that were lifted once he moved away. I feel like, right. Do you see what I mean? So I think, he might have always been that person, but I think it went from fantasy to reality when he moved. And it might have been due to stress and stuff like that. And again, just not having his parents there, that might have thwarted his plans had they been around. But it's not their fault. I'm just saying, had they been in the house with them. I do have a question for you, Daniel. So as someone who works, who's worked in law enforcement, how do anniversaries affect, or do you think, how do they affect the officers? Like the officers, for example, that showed up first, the crime scene investigators, do they reflect on anniversaries, or does this re-traumatize them?
Yes, it definitely does. I've had certain scenarios in my life where, as a law enforcement officer, that things had stuck with me. There was a guy that I had arrested a couple of times. And in one case, I arrested him a few times. He was not a good dude. And in one situation, we went to his house. He was beating up on his girlfriend / wife, his baby mama. And we kicked the door down. and he because he's beating her, we can hear it from outside, and so we kick the door down and we go inside, and it's me and two other officers. And long story short, this guy books it down the hallway to where son's room is, and he ends up, let me rephrase this. So the time before I arrested him on this time, when we went to his house, he had his son, which was about, maybe he was about 3 or 4 years old, on his lap. And he would use him as a shield, so that way we wouldn't pepper spray him, we wouldn't do anything. So he would keep his son between us. So on this day in particular, we break down his door and we go in, and he's booking it towards the back room. And I see the back room, his son come out. And so I run at him, and I end up getting him before he gets to his son, because I know what he's going to do. And we end up arresting this guy. And I filed so many attempts with CPS to get the kids out of there. Unfortunately, a few months after that, little boy died in the house. He apparently there was a couple of different things, but I think this one, he had choked on a screw. But at one point, he had apparently his dad had like slammed him on the ground, and he was only like 2 or 3 years old.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so they took the kid out and they put the kid back in, and then he died after apparently choking on a screw he found on the floor. That one kind of stuck for a little bit. Yeah. You don't see a lot of good things in law enforcement line of work. I had another guy, this one stuck with me for a while, was guy I arrested him, or no, I didn't arrest him. I pulled him over on Super Bowl Sunday. Ooh, I can't even tell you who was playing. It's probably the Colts and the Saints. And what ended up happening was, this guy was so you know how everybody says you have a quota? That's not true. Or at least in Texas, that is. They can't tell you how many citations you can get. Now they can tell
I always wondered that.
Yeah, officer discretion. It's actually quite illegal for a law enforcement supervisor to tell another officer to give somebody a citation. It's quite illegal. Now you can tell an officer to have stops, like, hey, I need you to contact 5 people today, whether that's 5 people walking on the road, whether that's pulling over 5 people, whether that's whatever. You have to 5 contacts.
Isn't that the same thing, just saying it different? Like, isn't that like...
No, because I can give the person 5 warnings.
But I mean, do officers ever hear you have to give 5 tickets when they say you should pull 5 people over? Okay, that's good.
That's highly illegal. So,
well, that's what I mean. So by saying it this way, it makes it legal.
No, because if I give somebody 5 warnings, or if I go and I pull, see, the stop has to be illegal too. You know what I mean? Like everything you do has to be illegal. And so, you go out there and you pull somebody over for running a stop sign. You know, what I used to do just to get it out of the way, and it used to be 3, is I would go sit at a 4-way stop behind a bush and wait for people to California roll it, is what they used to call it, where they would not stop all the way.
The South Philly slide here.
There you go. And then pull them over, give them a warning, and then I was done. At a 12-hour shift, I was done by the first hour. And then if I pulled somebody over, it's because they were actually doing something pretty crazy. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't, and it was always warnings. Like I was never really big into giving people citations. I was usually driving faster than they were, and so
and you wouldn't get like looked at, like not even reprimanded, but like looked at like, oh, good, that's good to know.
No. Well, I mean, I wasn't like excessively driving faster.
No, not that. Like you didn't give as many tickets, let's say, as other.
No.
So nobody ever
when we had like, so it depends on like the supervisors and stuff. If you get a supervisor like as DPS, like a trooper, man, that's all they live for. You know what I mean? They love the citations and stuff, and they won't necessarily say anything or whatever, but you can see, oh man, they'll be giving these attaboys to everybody. Like this guy did really good. I meant.
Yes,
this guy did really good this month. He did this, and it was like because there was one month that happened, like some dude gave like 80 tickets or something crazy. It's probably a lot more than that, but just like that. And I was like, man, I arrested 12 people for breaking in different incidences this month. I actually stopped a real crime, and you're giving this guy the attaboy. We used to have a saying, working as a police officer is like pissing yourself in dark clothes. Get a warm, funny feeling, but nobody notices.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's
It's
a good one.
but the other one that stuck with me was a young man who I pulled over on Super Bowl Sunday, and I needed one more contact. I had two, and I needed one more, so I was going down a road that everybody drives fast. And so I see this Mustang, light him up, turn it around, get behind him. And as I'm approaching the vehicle from the passenger side, I can smell the alcohol. And I was like, damn it. And the first thing I thought was my sergeant's going to be pissed because I had a knack for arresting people. I have a really good work ethic. If I work from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., I'm going to work from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m.
That's me. Our generation's different, Dan.
Yeah. Just because I get off at 5 p.m. don't mean that crime stopped at 4:55. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
And so, pulled this guy over. I was walking. I was like, man, my boss is going to get mad. In fact, they did this thing where they used to make me answer the phones 2 hours before the end of the shift, so I didn't get any more overtime. Well, anyways,
that's funny.
I'm walking up. I smell the alcohol, and the first thing goes through my mind is, man, my sergeant's gonna get mad at me for busting another dude for, DWI on right before the end of the shift, and those took 3 or 4 hours to do, and so pulled him out of the car. Guy was drunk as a skunk. We do the horizontal gaze and nystagmus is where you check the eyes. And there was bouncing all across the board. That one is hard to fake. And so I was thinking to myself, well, this guy's probably going to go to jail. And then we did the walk and turn, passed it better than I could do sober. The one-legged stand, passed it that I could do better sober. This guy was a professional drunk. And so I had a rule, you pass one of the 3 sobriety tests, somebody's going to pick you up and give you a ride home. It just so happened that everybody that I had pulled over for suspicion of DWI up to that time in my career had never done that. And so This was the first person I ever let go. And it just so happened that, I recognized his last name. I asked him if he was related to an officer that I knew, and he said, yeah. I told him that's the person he's going to call and pick up. And he had some resistance there. And I was like, hey, it's either you go with him or you go with me back to jail, one or the other. And so he called him up. That guy ended up getting mad at me. He tells me, he's like, did you give him a break because, he's related to me? And I said, no. I gave him a break because he passed 2 sobriety tests. I don't give a damn if he's related to you or not. If he would have failed both of them, he would have been in here. You know what I mean? And so,
would you have really arrested him if he failed it because you knew the other?
Yeah. I arrested my supervisor's brother one time for hitting a stop sign while being intoxicated.
Look at you doing the ethical thing.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. And so, so I told him that, and then I want to say a couple weeks later, 2-3 weeks later, I was getting off work, and at this point we had switched shifts. I went from day shift to night shift, and I was getting off early, and I was getting off about 2:34 in the morning, somewhere between there. And I was heading home, and I turned my radio on. I had my radio on still, and I hear on the radio a car accident on an overpass. And I just had this weird feeling about it. And I was listening, and then I could hear one of the officers go, we need an ambulance. We need an ambulance. And then I hear him say, F it. I've never heard anybody curse on the radio before at that point in my career. Say, F it, just bring a damn JP. He's dead. And apparently it was the same guy arrested, got drunk again, was doing about 110 on a motorcycle in the rain on the overpass, bit it, wrapped around a pole, and literally had his brains coming out of his helmet.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that one, his cousin, the officer, he came up to me, he's like, man, if you would have arrested him, maybe he would have learned his lesson. I was like, dude, don't put that shit on me. And
sure.
Me and him had words, but he was just hurting. He lost his cousin, and I was young. I was very young at the time. It was very early in my career. And, that one stuck with me for a minute.
What a story.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
There's a lot of like the things that people like law enforcement officers deal with. I mean, it's not on a day-to-day basis, but when it hits the fan, it hits the fan, and,
it's not an easy job.
It's not. And Like I've seen some of the craziest things, I didn't see this one, but like one of my coworkers, the one that stuck with him was some lady had boiled up a pan, got it scalding hot, and then dumped her kid in it for soiling his diaper.
What? See, that makes me want to dunk that person in the same pan.
Mm-hmm. That from what I heard, the baby's skin fell off and was in the hospital for like a week before he passed.
Oh no, he passed from it?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I feel like that person should get in the boiling water too, just for like, I feel like not an eye for an eye, but sometimes an eye for an eye.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you to Sirius Black real quick. Sirius Black says the amount of love that has come from this tragedy can be witnessed worldwide. Look at the friendships and love that have been created here. I will forever be grateful for you and Steelers, DT.
I appreciate you, Sirius. Thank you. Thank you.
Sirius is amazing. And then we have Cuff You. Thank you, Cuff You, that says, I think that regardless of how different true crime channels feel about BK, today we are all on the same page. It's about the beautiful lives lost, and we're sending our love. That is so beautifully said.
Yeah, very beautiful said.
100%. Definitely. I have another question or so for you real quick.
Go ahead.
So, okay. So I did my homework before I came on here because I'm usually on your channel and you always have things together. So I'm like, you know what? I need to have some questions for Daniel. So let's see. So, okay. So in this case, we saw that BK studied criminology. Have you ever had cases, or just do you think, like, what do you think when a suspect studies criminology or psychology, something like that, does it make the investigation harder?
Now, I've never had to deal with a situation with a person like that, but I've had to deal with a situation where we were filing a case, two different ones. One was against a Border Patrol agent, or no, an ICE agent, and the other one was against a lawyer. And in those two scenarios, you have people who were well versed with law and things of that nature. So it's not like you don't cross your T's and dot your I's in other investigations, but in those, you definitely want to make sure that you don't make any mistakes, because any mistake that you make can be exploited to the significantly big, make it significantly bigger than as if you were talking to somebody who maybe perhaps wasn't as informed. I can see how small town law enforcement might be intimidated also by maybe somebody who has a PhD or a master's degree in criminology and things of that nature, that this person's going to know more than they do. It might make the investigator unsure of themselves in those situations, especially if you have somebody who is well-versed and that can speak back, right? Like, are you sure about that? Like think about the way Ann Taylor talks. Like, she has a way of talking that makes you think she's about to say something, and then she doesn't. Like, she'll have like Detective Payne on the stand, and he would have said, I don't remember the situation, but he said something about cameras, and she's like, well, we're going to talk about cameras. We're going to get to cameras. In fact, let's talk about cameras. How many cameras do y'all find? And it's like all this big old, like, boom, 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 like we're about to get to something huge, and then there was nothing there. And so yeah, that I guess you can say is probably something that you might see in an investigation when you're dealing with somebody who knows their way around law enforcement or the investigation and stuff like that.
That's interesting. So I have rapid fire questions for you. Okay. So you have to answer very quickly.
All right.
You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. What show gets police work the most wrong, do you think? Is there a show out there that gets police work wrong?
Oh,
and these are just your opinion. They're not like.
Yes. I don't want to give anybody any attention though, but there was a channel from.
Yeah. Okay. You don't have to give it exact. I didn't mean like that, but I see what you're saying.
Right. So yeah, 100%. There's been a lot of things that I've seen that are wrong.
Does that drive you nuts?
Yes, it does. But that's the reason why I kind of started talking about true crime a little bit, because like sometimes people, they would put like approximations like in forms and things of that nature. And I'm just going to use that as an example. And somebody might, and I would see these true crime creators coming in saying, well, they use approximation because they don't know. And I was like, no, it's not that they don't know. Is that, it's because the information that you have may not be 100% accurate. Plus the information that you have may not be accurate with each other. So if you have a cell phone, a phone, a clock inside of a vehicle, and a clock on a security camera, they may not all align at the exact same time together. And so that's why you use approximations and things of that nature. It's not because of this nefarious reason that is out there.
Yeah, that would drive me nuts too. What's the hardest part of the job people never think about?
What part? What job? The law enforcement job?
Yeah, so being in law enforcement. Like, what's one of the hardest parts of the job that we don't always think about? Like someone like me that I might not take into consideration.
The constant worry. Like for instance, when you're in it and you're dealing with like bad people, and you're dealing with car accidents that happen every day, and you're dealing with what the severity of what mistakes can come about, it makes you worry. Like for instance, every time my wife and my kids get into a car and leave, it becomes a statistical match for me. Like, all right, I've seen what can happen. It makes me worry,
oh yeah, that must be tough.
Being super, not necessarily paranoid, but being aware of your surroundings at all times.
I bet that must be, that could be like a blessing and a curse. Yeah.
Like I used to jog around at this one park, and people used to tell me, because I used to go the opposite direction of everybody else. And one person asked my supervisor, because they had seen me, and they're like, why does he go the other way? And he's like, because he's not a follower. And I thought that was funny, but then he went and asked me, like, but seriously, why is it that you go the other way? And I go, it's because one time I was out there and I was tying my shoe, and when I got up, I got bumped in the back. And when I turned around, it was a guy that I arrested who was part of a prison gang. And so I never wanted anybody running up behind me again.
Oh yeah, that's something that I don't think us in the general public think about.
Yeah.
That is crazy. That would scare the crap out of me, honestly. What's the best advice you ever got as a rookie?
Don't look like one.
Ooh, that's a good piece of advice. What's one stereotype about cops that drives you insane?
Gosh, I guess there's not really one. We're all pigs, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess a lot of people think that because we know something, that we there's a saying, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove, right? And like I had this one lady who I went to her house, and she said that she had a break-in and a TV was missing, and she said it was her ex-husband who did it. She very well could have been 100% right, but she expected me to drop everything that moment and go and arrest the guy. And I was like, yo, I mean, I can't arrest him just because you're saying it's him. I need to go ask him some questions. I got to look up some video and things of that nature. There's an investigation that needs to happen. And, some folks have some wild expectations of a lot of different things. And whether it's the expectations of a witness and their memory, or the expectation of law enforcement and their ability to make an arrest, or whatever the case may be, I think expectations are too high.
Wow, that's interesting, right? Thank you for sharing that. One of my last questions for you are, what lessons do you think, what piece of advice can you give us, the public, about how to responsibly follow cases like BKs or something like that? So like for content creators or people, or subs, stuff like that. So let me repeat that. If you could give the public one piece of advice about how to responsibly follow a case like this, what would it be?
Don't jump to a conclusion. Wait for all the facts. A lot of times, a lot of people look real stupid because they'll see something and it might be only a half truth, or it might be only, somebody might be regurgitating something wrong. And then, you go out there and you regurgitate it yourself and it comes out even more wrong. and then people look really, really bad.
And now you spread misinformation, whether you meant to or not.
Exactly.
Not you personally, but the person that repeats the story 1,000%.
And, you know, take everything with a sense of skepticism, you know, like that's kind of what I do. You know, even with Bryan Kohberger, I was like skeptical about everything. So they arrested him and I was like, all right, well, let me see the evidence. And then I was like, all right, you know, I knew that they had to have something pretty concrete, but I also knew that, because I was able to deduce a lot of things. Like I was able to deduce when they got his name before it really came out. And I was able to figure that out because the chief there was all on December 18th and 19th, all sad and like, oh, gee willikers, you know, this is what we have going on. And then December 20th, he's like, I want to thank everybody here. You know, I'm part of this investigation, and this is this guy, and this is this guy showing up. Like, yeah, we you know, without saying that they got something, it was obvious they got something. Well, yeah, I mean, the guy looked like he was pregnant. He was glowing. And so I was like, I had made a video about it. I was like, look, they got his name. They know who he is. It's right now. Look at the video on December 17th. Look at the one on December 19th. And then look at the one on December 20th. Completely
have to go back and look at that.
Yeah, it's on the Moscow Police Department web YouTube channel. Look at the ones. Yeah, because he's you can see him stress, the bags under his eyes and everything. And then on December 20th, he's like, I want to thank everybody that's been a part of this investigation. There's myself. There's this guy. We have the lead detective over here.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was like, man, they figured it out. They figured it out.
Oh, that's so interesting. I never picked up on that. I'm going to have to go back and look.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The last thing I have for tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt?
No, it's all good. It's all good. You're good.
My bad. The last thing I have for tonight is about, well, let me see if I can pull it up. And if it starts to get weird, I'll just, like, if it starts to get laggy, I'll just X out of it. But let's see. So this last thing that I got was the judge rules in Kohberger restitution dispute on the anniversary of the student's deaths. So here we have in Boise, Idaho, the judge overseeing the Moscow college student murders case ordered Bryan Kohberger, who admitted to the killings, to compensate two of the victims' families for funeral-related costs. So the 4th Judicial District Judge Stephen Hippler ruled Thursday that Kohberger, already responsible for more than $300,000 in criminal fines and fees, must pay another $3,000 at the request of the state prosecutors. His attorney successfully argued against adding restitution that would have expanded the amount he owed by 9 times to offset other expenses of the two families. His public defense team argued that at a hearing last week that he already had no ability to pay any of the costs. Even if the defendant is unlikely to ever meet the full amount of restitution, an order of restitution may be upheld if it does not require installment payments or deadlines, but simply gives the victims the present ability to obtain a judgment, Hippler wrote in his ruling. Kohberger, who turns 31 next week, pleaded guilty in July, we all know of. The victims were Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. So then it says Thursday also marked the 3-year mark since the 4 students were fatally stabbed that we know. And I think that was the main thing there. So I think that that's good, and I think that it was monumental that he came down on that decision today, right? Did you see that? I saw that right before I went live. I was like, oh, I
did not. I'm glad you brought that up.
So there you go. So the judge ruled in their favor, and I think it was monumental that he came down with his ruling today on the anniversary, and especially because it deals specifically with the urns of Kaylee and Maddie, which are, I mean, he obviously, in my opinion, needs to pay for that. Don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And even Hippler said that if he doesn't, wouldn't that be going against the plea agreement? And I'm like, it kind of is, because didn't he agree to pay for funeral expenses? So I just thought it was weird that the defense was even bringing it up for $3,000.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like, did they just want to be back? I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if they just like want to be back in the news again. I don't know. I'm like, that was unnecessary.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Man, Moscow Police Department. Oh, you know what? Yeah, the Moscow Police Department have removed the videos from back in the day. I'm gonna have to find them on my on my channel, the where I pulled them up and I was like showing the differences. Jeez.
Oh, I'm sure I could find them. Isn't that
The
crazy? So,
yeah.
Daniel, what do you have next?
So tomorrow I'll
What do you have
be
going on?
talking. Yeah, tomorrow I'm going to be talking about probably Melody Buzzard and or actually I'm going to be talking about Jack and Lily Sullivan and their disappearance. I'm going to kind of go. I think they have a search coming tomorrow or the next day. I think it's either the 14th or the 15th. There's a search that's supposed to be going on out there in Nova Scotia. So I'm going to be talking about if they found anything.
I was going to say, and let us know if you send somebody out there to go look.
Yeah, I've already sent information about that. Let me, you know what? If you want to look at it real quick, let me pull it up real fast.
Absolutely. And thank you to all the people that showed up here tonight. I can't believe it was amazing.
Yes, yes. And so one of the things that has had me, I guess, I don't want to say, I guess, bothered a little bit is, let me see if I can find it. I'm going to send
Well, this will set me up for my next live coming up.
All right, let me send out these images here real quick. And let me save them, and then I'll pull them up here in a second. And then I'm going to pull up the... So one of the things that I feel about the case there is that the
Is this
kids...
you?
Is who, me?
Is this your document or was this mine?
That's yours.
Okay. I didn't know if you just sent me that to put up. My bad. Go ahead.
No. I was like, what's me?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Let's see. Downloads.
And you should be able to pull it up from your side too, right? No. I think Daniel froze on us. So while we wait for Daniel to come back from being frozen, thank you to everybody who showed up here tonight for me and for Daniel and for the case, for Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan. I appreciate everyone here. I do think that, for the families, I think it's important that we stayed focused on them tonight. That was really important to me. And in the comments, I would like to invite you to share for Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, and Madison, or for the families who continue to carry in the loss. So just share your opinions about the case or something that you would want to say, to the families or even to them, or, something nice about the victims as opposed to us talking about BK, right? So if you could put something in the comments, even things like letting us know where are you tuning in from. I think it's amazing to see how many people all over the world tune into this case, right? So I think that that's amazing. Daniel's computer restarted. Daniel, you know what I was going to ask you, since that one has to do with Jack and Lily. Well, I guess we could pull it up here since there's like 300 people in here, but I was going to say, we could also start my next live. You could bring that up and then you could bounce off if you want so that I don't feel guilty for giving my true opinion on the videos I'm going to watch. Yes, thoughts and prayers for all the families this evening. But Daniel, you let me know. Either one works for me. And thank you again for everybody that's coming in. I can't believe there's 300 people in here. You guys have no idea. Thank you so much. Also, thank you again, just to see if we're waiting for Daniel. In the meantime, thank you again to Cuff You. I really appreciate you. And to Sirius Black, I appreciate you. And Mark the Shark's been a member for 3 months. And then Caught Up in Crime's been a member for 16 months. And here goes Daniel.
Hey, sorry about that.
You're good.
Pull up on the new one if you want and talk a little bit about it. But yeah, long story short, I sent out the location of where we found some clothing. It could be nothing. I'm not saying it's something, but it could be something.
But it's something more than we've heard in a minute.
Yeah. And the thing about it is that it is in an area where I cannot deduce that it was that it's not Hold on, let me show you. I don't know why I didn't just do this the first time. Just go to Google Earth. But if you want to go on to the other one, yeah, more than happy to do so.
Do you want to? Will you join us for the beginning of the other one? Maybe that'll get people over there too.
I can be there for a few. Yeah.
Yeah, just for a few. You don't have to stay up there. I'll kick you off after a few minutes so that I can talk shit without feeling guilty. No, I'm just kidding.
No, that's fine. Yeah, we can do it on the next one. That
want to do that. So if anybody wants to tune in to hear this, and again, we're talking about new articles of clothing that may or may not have anything to do with it, but I think that it's a lead, and we haven't had many leads lately. So I do think that regardless, if we see something out there, that somebody should go check it out, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is what I would say to end this real quick. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. Please tune in to the DT show, subscribe, like, share, all the things here too. If you're from Daniel's channel, please subscribe to my channel. We appreciate it. I'm sure you guys will be seeing me in the next few days too. If you're here for just the BK show, if you're here for the Jack and Lily Sullivan as well, I will see you in 19 minutes when I start the next live. And again, Daniel, even if we just keep you for like 5 minutes, whatever you want, I know that you work really hard. You have work again tomorrow, so I don't want to keep you too late, but I would appreciate you stopping over there to start our show off.
Yes, ma'am. Send me the link. I'll be there.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. And thank you everybody here for joining me tonight. This was a lovely show and I look forward to doing it again.
See y'all later.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.